Cant Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @CuneReview, that is @CuneReview. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cunereview.com, that is information@cunereview.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
This is from the Herald on Wednesday the 17th of May 2023. This is from the news section. The headline reads, "Children abandoned by SNP as rejected mental health referrals SOARS." This article is by David Ball. SNP ministers have been accused of having abandoned children and young people after new statistics revealed a rise in the number of rejected mental health referrals. New analysis by Scottish Labour has found that in 2022, almost 9,000 children and young people had their referral to CAMHS rejected, equating to almost 25 young people every day. The new figures show a sharp rise compared to pre-pandemic levels, with the number of rejected referrals now more than 18% higher than in 2019. Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar has issued a warning over the trend ahead of his party holding a debate on mental health at Holyrood. The party motion highlights the fact that almost 30,000 children, young people and adults are currently waiting for mental health treatment and sets out a number of key policies to improve services. Labour's asks include the creation of a new referral system to ensure no young person is rejected for treatment, the provision of a dedicated mental health worker in every GP practice, and a mental health A&E department in every health board so that patients can be fast-tracked, and an increase in mental health spending to at least 11% of the NHS budget. Mr Sarwar said, "Children and young people in Scotland have been abandoned by the SNP at every turn, from their dire record on education to their failure to support CAMHS. Mental health services are at breaking point despite the tireless work of NHS staff, and thousands of children and young people are at risk of falling through the cracks." He added, "Rejected referrals soared during Humza Yousaf's time as Health Secretary. Now he needs to fix it as First Minister." The SNP must back Labour's motion and deliver the action we desperately need to prevent a full-blown mental health crisis unfolding in Scotland. A counter-motion to be put forward by Mental Health Minister Marie Todd acknowledges that many people are struggling with their mental health and well-being, but it points to the cumulative impact that the COVID-19 pandemic, the conflict in Ukraine, Brexit and the cost of living crisis have had on the mental well-being of children, young people and adults across the country. That article was by David Ball. This is from the Herald on Wednesday the 17th of May 2023. This is from the news section. The headline reads, "Labour brands SNP dysfunctional over stuttering election selection." This article is by David Ball. Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar has labelled the SNP dysfunctional after Humza Yousaf's party reportedly paused its selection process for a key by-election. Labour is teeing up for a by-election in Rutherglen and Hamilton West if COVID rule-breaking MP Margaret Ferrier is suspended from the House of Commons. Miss Ferrier was suspended from the SNP after she admitted travelling between Scotland and England while positive with the virus in 2020. The independent MP is currently appealing against a proposed 30-day sanction recommended by the Commons Standard Committee, which could trigger a by-election if 10% of her constituents sign a recall petition. Scottish Labour has already selected modern studies teacher Michael Shanks to contest the potential vote, and he will stand for the party in the general election expected next year. But reports on Tuesday suggested that the First Minister has rejected a series of local candidates put forward for selection. He told The Times, "It's an important by-election potentially that will take place there, and we've got to make sure we've got an excellent candidate in place, which I'm committed to doing." Mr Sarwar, whose party have identified the constituency as an important target, said he was not shocked to hear about the rumoured struggle to select an SNP candidate. He said, "To be honest, I'm not surprised. This is a dysfunctional political party, and I think they are too busy trying to solve their internal issues to actually be focused on, one, either building and growing their support, and second, for even delivering for people across the country. We are relentlessly going to focus on ourselves, making sure we continue to rebuild the Scottish Labour Party and making sure we continue to build that trust and support and building up the ideas for the next election, whether that be in 2024 or 2026. We're focusing on the people's priorities, not focusing on dividing our country or indeed internal divisions, as seemed to be the case with the SNP. Mr Sarwar, who is speaking to journalists on a visit to Glasgow Girls FC in the city's Springboig area, added, "The SNP are dysfunctional, incoherent, and they are in the hunt for tactics as well as a strategy." His comments come after Deputy Labour leader Jackie Baillie said last week that defeat in the seat to the SNP would require some soul-searching in her party. Miss Ferrier, who now sits as an independent MP, won the seat from Labour in 2019 with a 5% swing and a majority of 5,240. Scottish Labour Deputy Leader Jackie Baillie has warned that if her party fails to win the seat, it would be a disaster and would lead to some serious soul-searching. The article was by David Ball. This is from the Herald on Wednesday the 17th of May 2023. This is from the news section. The headline reads, "More lawyers hit back at Sturgeon claim they are acting politically." This article is by Kathleen Nutt. More lawyers have hit back at Nicola Sturgeon's claims opposition to juryless trials reflects the polarisation of Scottish politics. The Faculty of Advocates Criminal Bar Association, CBA, earlier today accused the former First Minister of using Donald Trump tactics to undermine their arguments against a pilot of a judge-only trial without a jury, sitting in cases of rape and attempted rape. Tony Lenihan, president of the faculty CBA, urged Miss Sturgeon to leave tarring dissenting voices rather than respect and listen to their opinions on the other side of the Atlantic. Now Simon Brown of the Scottish Solicitors Bar Association, which represents more than 400 solicitors working in criminal courts across Scotland, has entered the row, saying claims Miss Sturgeon made in a newspaper article this week suggesting critics of the proposal are motivated by party politics is far from the truth. Mr Brown said opposition to the plan contained in the Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Bill should not come as a shock to the former First Minister as her lawyers were against a proposal made by the government for juryless trials during the pandemic. He added his organisation and others who opposed the pilot plans were apolitical and pointed to criticism made by Lord Hope and Lord Ewist. The latter, a retired senator of the College of Justice, this month described the plans as constitutionally repugnant and accused politicians of treating the courts as forensic laboratories in which to experiment with their policies. Nicola Sturgeon's article in The Guardian on the Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Bill paints a picture of good intentions derailed by the bitterly partisan and polarised nature of Scottish politics, and little more than party politics being played with rape victims' lives. With respect, this is far from the truth, Mr Brown told the Herald. First of all, the vehemence and speed of the legal profession's rejection of juryless trials should not come as a shock to the government. Exactly the same response happened during the pandemic with judge-led trials. Why would it be any different now? Secondly, the opposition to this flawed bill has not in the main come from opposition parties, but from the apolitical Scottish Solicitors Bar Association, the Law Society of Scotland and the Faculty of Advocates. Commentators also talk of some solicitors voicing concerns. Try virtually every criminal lawyer in Scotland. Mr Brown said it was disingenuous of Miss Sturgeon to hide behind the statement that these are not the government's proposals, but those of Lady Dorian, Scotland's second most senior judges, as it ignored the comments made by other heavyweight legal minds in Lord Hope and Ewist. He also went on to say that during a pilot scheme in New Zealand on juryless trials, rape convictions fell to 31%. Angela Constance, the Justice Secretary, has claimed that low conviction rates for rape and attempted rape were hampered by the prevalence of preconceptions. In the most recent figures, conviction rates for rape and attempted rape were 51%, compared with 91% for all other crimes. Is it not the raison d'etre of the criminal bar to fearlessly put their position to the bench? He added. No doubt there is a need for education here, but it is unfathomable that the Scottish Government's reaction is to exclude the public from the process rather than try and educate them in their essential role in it. Juries are the most diverse part of the criminal court system, and their exclusion is an affront to justice. Finally, a word of caution in being careful what you wish for. New Zealand tried judge-only courts, and their conviction rate in rape cases fell to 31%. Miss Sturgeon cited polarisation in politics as one of the key reasons for her resignation, but writing in The Guardian said that she had underestimated the depth of the problem before departing. The reaction to the proposed pilot of judge-only rape trials in Scotland, part of a package of measures to improve access to justice for victims of this appalling crime, is a case in point, she said. She said that there were strong arguments on both sides in relation to the legislation, which was signed off when she was First Minister, and that a time limit on the pilot was in place to see if juryless trials could help address the deficit of justice in rape cases without compromising the right to a fair trial of those accused. She said, but before the ink was even dry on the draft legislation, and without a single word of debate or evidence being heard in Parliament, let alone the shape of the final proposal being known, fixed positions had been stacked. The article was by Kathleen Nutt.
This is from the Herald on Thursday the 18th of May 2023, from the news section. Faith chiefs issue common humanity warning over assisted dying plans. This article is written by David Ball. Religious leaders have issued a joint warning that plans to allow assisted dying in Scotland would mean that our society as a whole loses its common humanity. A meeting will be held by faith leaders at Holyrood today, where they will voice their opposition to the Scottish Parliament proposals. Scottish Lib Dem's MSP Liam MacArthur's Members' Bill would allow competent terminally ill adults to request assistance to end their lives. Last year, Mr MacArthur won the right to introduce his bill to Parliament, and it is currently being drafted with a final text planned for later this year. He has said the public are behind the proposals to offer people more choice at the end of their life, and the bill will be safe, robust and compassionate. But leaders from the Church of Scotland, the Catholic Church and the Scottish Association of Mosques will speak in opposition to the plans at an event in the Scottish Parliament. They have issued a joint statement on the issue, signed by Kirk Moderator Reverend Ian Greenshields, Bishop of Paisley John Keenan and Imam Sheikh Hamza Kandwala of Dundee Central Mosque. The statement said, "This bill would make it legal in certain circumstances to help people to commit suicide. Our faith traditions are united in the principle that assisted dying in itself inevitably undermines the dignity of the human person, and to allow it would mean that our society as a whole loses its common humanity." The Church of Scotland, the Roman Catholic Church in Scotland and the Scottish Association of Mosques remain firm in their opposition to assisted suicide and euthanasia. The faith leaders emphasise the sanctity placed upon life in their respective religious traditions. Reverend Greenshields said, Our opposition to assisted dying is based on our Christian faith and involves concerns around the principle of assisted dying, around the application of the law in practice, the perception of the value of human lives, and also the effect which any change is likely to have on the provision of care, in particular on palliative care. Bishop Keenan added, "Assisted suicide attacks human dignity and results in human life being increasingly valued on the basis of its efficiency and utility." Imam Kandwala said, "Muslims believe life is a divine gift and is given as a sacred trust. As such, we have a collective responsibility to protect the most vulnerable, including the elderly and the terminally ill." Mr. MacArthur responded to the faith leaders' claims by saying there is an unequivocal need for the law to change. He said, "The assisted dying bill that I have proposed to the Scottish Parliament would offer a more compassionate choice to terminally ill, mentally competent adults only, subject to strict safeguards and alongside high-quality end-of-life care. It draws on 25 years of evidence from the US and now Australia and New Zealand, which proves that when a tightly drafted law for terminally ill people is introduced, it remains that way, with no extension on the eligibility criteria. Furthermore, it offers far more protection, transparency and regulation than the status quo. We know that, too often, terminally ill Scots facing a bad death are forced to resort to desperate measures, some going to Switzerland if they can afford it, many more taking matters into their own hands behind closed doors. That cannot be right, and we must do better." Chief Executive of Humanist Society Scotland, Fraser Sutherland, stressed that there is significant support for an assisted dying right amongst individual people of faith. He added, "It is important to recognise that the proposed bill by Liam MacArthur would allow terminally ill people access to an assisted death should they choose it. The bill is about giving people the right and choice to control their own deaths in a way to minimise suffering. Equally, it will protect and respect the choices of individuals who do not wish to access a medically assisted death and provide a right to conscientious objection for medical practitioners." The question arising from this event for MSPs and wider society is why the views of 3 senior clerics should take precedence and block the rights of others to a choice that meets their beliefs on life and death in their final hours. That article was written by David Boll. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 18th of May 2023, from the news section. Glasgow, deposit-free city homes for rent in Springboig. This article is written by Brian Donnelly. More than 150 homes are to make up a new community of rental homes that do not require a deposit. Rental home operator Casa by Moda is set to open a state-of-the-art new rental neighbourhood in Springboig, Glasgow, bringing a new generation of rental homes to the region. The £41 million neighbourhood, which is called Casa Vista Park, will offer its residents deposit-free, pet-friendly living as part of an inclusive offer designed to prioritise health, well-being and sustainability. Casa by Moda has purchased the site from house builder CCG Group, one of the country's largest privately owned construction and manufacturing groups. It will comprise a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments alongside 2, 3 and 4 bedroom houses for rent, with community spaces including a wildlife area and 2 play parks. CCG Group originally purchased the land as a private residential development for CCG Homes, its private housing subsidiary. However, following the sale to Moda Living, CCG will now collaborate with Casa by Moda to complete the neighbourhood, regenerating the 6.5 hectares of brownfield land. It is claimed residents at Casa Vista Park will benefit from several Casa brand partnerships, including Utopia's smart technology installed in every home to monitor air quality, energy usage and carbon emissions, while also being able to preempt maintenance issues and provide live data reporting via My Casa Resident app. Johnny Caddick, Chief Executive at Moda Living, said, "We're incredibly excited to be bringing Casa by Moda to Glasgow for the first time. There is significant undersupply of quality rental homes across Scotland, and in Glasgow in particular. With rental prices on the rise, residents want and deserve to be sure that they are getting value for their money and long-term security. At Casa by Moda, that's exactly what we're committed to delivering. Our Casa Vista Park neighbourhood will deliver quality, sustainable homes in a vibrant and inclusive community, harnessing innovative tech to provide a standout offering with health and well-being at its core." He added, "We can't wait to welcome our first residents later this year and look forward to seeing Casa Vista Park become a thriving community which enriches the lives of people who live here." CCG will complete the site with the new homes being delivered for Casa. Callum Murray, CCG Director, said, "We are delighted to be working in collaboration with Casa by Moda to bring this innovative family rental model to Glasgow for the first time. The level of investment created by this partnership is particularly significant for our business, for the housing market and for the City of Glasgow, especially in the East End, where our commitment to provide high-quality homes and sustaining jobs is hugely important for the local economy." That article was written by Brian Donnelly. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 18th of May 2023, from News section. Glasgow subway adverts with Michelangelo's David banned over nudity. This article is written by Emma Sablejack. A Glasgow restaurant has been forced to change its adverts featuring Michelangelo's David after they were blocked due to nudity. Original designs commissioned by the Italian restaurant Barolo were rejected from advertising spaces in Glasgow's subway over modesty concerns. Featuring the phrase, "It doesn't get more Italian," the poster showed the Renaissance sculpture holding a slice of pizza. Despite being considered one of the most recognisable statues in the world, advertising giant Global, which runs the marketing space, rejected the poster showing David cropped at the knees. The restaurant then suggested stickers of the Italian flag were used to cover the sculpture's modesty, but these were then deemed too small and the design wasn't approved. A full reprint of the adverts with the sculpture cropped at the waist was then required for the posters to be displayed on the subway. Mario Gizzi, director of the DRG Group, which runs Barolo and several other restaurants in Scotland, said they were bemused on hearing the decision. "This is a globally recognised piece of art," he said. "It is taught in schools. People from all over the world travel to see it. It's not the 1500s anymore, it's 2023. Are we really saying that the people of Glasgow can't handle seeing a naked statue?" Barolo is all about Italy's classic cooking, and Michelangelo's David is one of the country's most famous artworks. As the ad states, it doesn't get more Italian than that. The 17-foot statue, which depicts a naked David, the biblical figure who kills the giant Goliath, was created at the start of the 16th century. Mr. Gizzi added, "We were somewhat bemused to receive an email from Global which confirmed that after checking with SPT, our ad could not be used, as it is art, but it is still nudity, and the way it is cropped in this copy may not be suitable for the untargeted medium." We then had to go to the cost of a full reprint. It is not the first time that the world-renowned sculpture created controversy over recent months. A principal of a Florida school was forced to resign after a parent complained that 6th grade students who were shown the statue were exposed to pornography. Principal Hope Carasquilla of Tallahassee Classical School said she resigned after she was given an ultimatum by the school board to resign or be fired, according to local media. Richard DeMarco, a Scottish artist and patron of the Edinburgh Festival, told The Times he feared the market was forcing prudery around such pieces of classic art. He added, "It's absolutely as I would expect, and obviously this is nonsense." It proves that despite their efforts, both Glasgow and Edinburgh are not exactly relied upon to understand the true message of great artists. I think it's a fantastic idea to have an image of that masterpiece on the Glasgow Underground, and its citizenry is very fortunate to be so educated by it. The Advertising Standard Authority, ASA, said their code does not prohibit nudity, but it is the right of media owners to refuse spaces. A spokesperson said, "It's in the gift of media owners to refuse advertising space. They often have their own criteria alongside the advertising code for what they will accept. That is a commercial decision and not something we regulate. We respond to concerns about ads once they're in the public domain. The advertising code does not prohibit nudity in ads. Under our rules, providing the level of nudity is not explicit or gratuitous and is relevant to the product, some nudity may be considered acceptable. Our criteria isn't based on the amount of nudity in an ad, but instead whether an ad's content as well as its targeting or placement is irresponsible and likely to cause serious or widespread offence." Global was contacted for comment. And that article was written by Emma Sablejack.
From the Herald Scotland, Thursday the 18th of May 2023, from the Voices section. Opinion: The lessons Morrissey can still teach me. Article by Teddy Jameson, senior features writer. So, I've been thinking about Morrissey again. It's all the critic Claire Dederer's fault. I spent the last week reading her new book Monsters, Sceptre, £20. Subtitles: A Fan's Dilemma. It asks the question, what do we do with the art of monstrous men? As she wrote earlier this month, I spent my life being disappointed by beloved male artists. The likes of John Lennon, assault. T.S. Eliot, anti-Semitism. Woody Allen, Sun Yi. Roman Polanski, rape of a minor. The reviews of Dederer's book have been rather mixed, but I found it an interesting, often entertaining read, mostly because it made me laugh on a regular basis. And it made me think again about my own fandom. How do I feel about the monsters whose work I have consumed? Is it still safe to do so? What is a just punishment in the courts of public opinion? A court itself is another matter. That's why Polanski, who pleaded guilty in an American court to statutory rape, fled to France in 1977 when it looked like he would be imprisoned, and has never returned to the US since. In the light of this, Dederer asks if it's still okay to watch Chinatown. She found she could. My love of the films did not grow from any forgiveness of his crime, she writes in Monsters. That forgiveness never happened, though, as she points out, Polanski has been forgiven by Samantha Guimier, née Gailey, the young girl he abused, now a 60-year-old woman. In a binary culture, one weaponised by social media, there are easy positions to take in this. We can simply say the artist is not the art, full stop. Or we can argue that the words and actions mark, stain is the word Dederer uses, the art. Picasso the artist is also Picasso the abuser. Some of Dederer's readers seem to be disappointed that she has not nailed her colours to either of these masts, but I'm with her in finding it difficult to come to some hard and fast rules. It's complicated. Which brings us to Morrissey. Back in the 1980s, the Smiths were my band, the one I loved above all others, the band in whose songs I saw myself most recognisably reflected back at me. 16 clumsy and shy, that's the story of my life, or 19 in my case. The last few years have not been easy for the Smiths fan that I was. Morrissey has morphed into a reactionary old man whose comments flirt with little Englandism and outright racism. The wearing of a For Britain badge in American TV, indicating his apparent approval of the far-right political party, was the last straw for many. But the question is, does his stain spread back in time to grow like mould in those records he made in the flush of youth? For some it has. They argue that you can find evidence of the man he is now in those records, in their insularity and their desire to look backwards. For various reasons, sorrow mainly, I have been listening to those old Smith songs a lot in the last year or two. I am not ready to give them up. Partly because I think they don't belong to Morrissey alone. The Smiths are as defined by Johnny Marr's guitar lines as Morrissey's lyrics. Morrissey is not the sole auteur of those records, in the same way as Polanski isn't the only reason why Chinatown is as good as it is. Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway and cinematographer John A. Alonso all played their part. But also, I think those Smith songs belong to me in a way. They're part of my own mental landscape, divorced from their creators. Art becomes a vehicle for all of us to help find our place in the world. We are what we love, right? And I can still find something to love in Morrissey's lyrics from back then. As he sang on I Know It's Over, it's so easy to laugh, it's so easy to hate, it takes strength to be gentle and kind. That still seems a revolutionary statement to me, maybe even more so now than back then. We shouldn't lose those words because of the subsequent words of the man who wrote them. And that was an opinion piece by Teddy Jameson. From the Herald Scotland, Thursday the 18th of May 2023, from the Voices section, opinion: We older folk are facing down decrepitude by joining gym bunnies. By Rosemary Goring. It was the clothes pulley that did it. When fully loaded with damp clothes, winching it back up to the ceiling is like hoisting a mainsail. After one such exertion, following which I needed treatment from a physiotherapist, I had to accept that my upper body strength is not what it could be. As a result, you'll now find me, twice a week, in our local gym. What a strange new world it is. A place filled with machines that wouldn't look out of place in Torquemada's Manual for the Inquisition. Don't be afraid of this one, the physio said when introducing me to a 10-foot metal contraption with hooks, cables, ankle straps and assorted attachments that would light up a sadomasochist's eye. What's to be scared of, I said, as its shadow fell upon me. At the moment I'm taking baby steps in terms of the weights I'm pulling on this beast. By Christmas, however, I expect to be sufficiently muscle-bound to yank it out of the wall and launch myself into space. In the meantime, I work away, try not to feel discouraged at my puny efforts. When approaching the weights room, there is often the intimidating clang of dumbbells and barbells being dropped by blokes who look as if they could lift girders in their teeth. When working out, the noises these Tarzans produce are worrying, not so much puffing and panting, as the sort of yelp someone would make after a curling stone has landed on their bunion. Earlier this week, when one of them had been using the seated row machine ahead of me, I saw the peg was slotted into the heaviest weight, the one I assumed could only be budged by oxen. I repositioned it to the second most weak clean position, which is my humble starting point. It's just a question of sticking at it and progressing, the Iron Man told me kindly, although I'm pretty sure he was stronger than me by the time he was watching Postman Pat. At moments like these, you are confronted with the realisation that there's only so much your physique is capable of, even had it ever found its peak. There's one good thing about reaching my age, however. Self-consciousness is all but banished, along with any vestige of pride or dignity. Another revelation is that there are people far older than me in there, lifting serious weights, using complicated looking bits of equipment to work different parts of the body, or doing a shift on the treadmill, some barely at a shuffle, others pounding away. All of us are of an age where previously you might have expected to find us at the bowling club, yet here we are, facing down advanced decrepitude in the only way we know how. I'd like to tell you how the others are getting on, but the truth is, I'm too busy taking care of myself. As far as I can see, nobody pays much attention to anyone else apart from an occasional hello. If we were to meet in the supermarket, there'd be no glimmer of recognition. For that matter, when I catch a glimpse of myself in the wall mirrors, I hardly recognise this creature in leggings and space-age trainers with a tomato for a face. It's come to this, in part thanks to a career spent hunched over a keyboard and sitting with a book in hand. Compared to previous generations, people of my vintage, and younger, are largely sedentary unless we make a conscious effort to exert ourselves. Instead of walking, we drive. Instead of taking exercise, we are glued to screens. Instead of eating well, we binge on junk and consume too much alcohol and sugary drinks. Not surprising, then, predictions of the tsunami of musculoskeletal problems being stored up for our older age are alarming. So too issues with obesity and cardiovascular health. As I jog on a treadmill, rediscovering how therapeutic this mindless exercise can be, I find myself wondering why it's easier to commit an hour in a soulless barn of a gym to a soundtrack of anodyne local radio than to set aside time to climb the hills. Living in the countryside, I've discovered, is not always a recipe for healthy living. Whenever I'm in the city, I cover miles between one place and another without even noticing. At home, a long walk has to be scheduled. As a result, it's often easier to get on with other pressing things than enjoy the outdoors, which, when life is busy, can feel like an indulgence. There's something about the discipline of the gym that, while slightly unnerving, makes it feel like a justifiable use of time. For those, like me, who have never been fitness fanatics, it's not a natural environment. As someone who loves fresh air, the idea of slogging away indoors in a space reeking of old trainers is not appealing. It would not be my ideal choice of how to get healthier and stronger. Yet how else to do this so efficiently? These fiendish looking machines are designed not as instruments of torture, but for our benefit. Lifting bags of compost under each arm, if only, might eventually achieve the same effect, but having a gauge by which to measure the microscopic improvement, and act as an incentive, is undoubtedly useful. The hope is to see an incremental advance, month on month. These gym hours are also a chance to concentrate wholly on getting fitter. In another age, of course, the very concept would have been alien. Life was demanding enough. Long trudges to work, hard labour on the home front as well as in the fields, underheated homes and offices where calories were burned simply in an attempt to stay warm, and so on. The problem for our forebears was not improving their endurance and strength, or watching their waistline, but finding enough time to rest and recuperate from the daily grind. Now we're at the polar opposite, taking a break being the last thing we need. Yet, as I gear up for my next visit, I'm under no illusions. Mine is not a couch to the Commonwealth Games challenge. I'll be satisfied when I can hoist the clothes pulley with one hand while toying with a kettlebell in the other. And that was a Voices piece by Rosemary Goring.
Herald Scotland recorded on Thursday 18th of May 2023. Arts and Entertainments. Captain Sensible, If I Die Tomorrow, I've Enjoyed Every Minute. By Herald Magazine. During COVID-induced lockdown, baking banana bread and sourdough were the skills du jour, but when things opened up and life returned to some semblance of normal, some were having to resharpen other skills. After the 2 years of lockdown, well, I have to tell you that when you get to a certain age, you tend to forget all the song lyrics and the riffs, and I had to relearn the entire Damned set all over again, says the band's charismatic beret-wearing guitarist, Captain Sensible. A co-founder of the famous band, Captain Sensible, whose full name is Raymond Burns, has been, along with the lineup of lead vocalist Dave Vanian, Monty Oxymoron, Paul Gray and William Glanville Taylor, touring Europe and the UK of late with the Nightingales as their special guests. Having played Glasgow last month, the end of May will see them doing a small run of shows in the US, brackets including San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego and more, close brackets, and next month they'll take the stage at the Glastonbury Music Festival. The band, who charted with hits such as Smash It Up, Love Song and Eloise, are often celebrated as the first British punk act to release a single after issuing their debut New Rose on the Stiff Records label in October 1976. In 2014, Captain Sensible told WBUR-FM he adopted the name in the light of the irony of having been a debauched maniac. Their debut album, Damned, 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 was released in 1977, and their new album, Darkadelic, released at the end of April, follows on from A Night of 1,000 Vampires, released last year. Actually, the only gaps that we've had in a 45-year career was the 2 years of COVID, because we've actually been a touring band for all these years, the 69-year-old says. Amazingly, I think you're supposed to, as a punk group, make one album full of mania and brimstone and fire and all the rest of it, and then explode and split up, or, as did poor old Sid Vicious, brackets from the Sex Pistols, close brackets, kick the bucket, and then everyone calls you a legend. But the Damned didn't do it that way. We went on this musical adventure. So from punk rock, we've kind of meandered through all sorts of genres and been instrumental in starting goth music, and had a rap hit, amazingly unlikely as it sounds, in 1982 with a song called What?, which was number 1 in loads of countries all over Europe. So it's been a funny old career. The band, which has seen lineup changes and reunions, had a run of minor hits in the 70s, and with a new lineup which did not feature Sensible, they had further success in the mid-80s, charting with songs such as Grimly Fiendish and adopting a gothic look to match Vanian's vampiric image. Over the years, the band included John Moss, before he formed Culture Club, and, for a brief period when they were known as The Doomed, Motorhead's Lemmy played bass. They also released a spin-off album of garage psychedelia covers under the name Naz Nomad and the Nightmares. The 5-piece played most of the album on their recent tour, with Sensible having rejoined the lineup in 1986. Released at the end of last month, Darkadelic is the band's 12th album, and only their 4th this century. The album title pays tribute to their enduring influence as a pioneering goth band and interest in psychedelia, with 12 tracks packed full of melodies and insistent hooks. It also takes inspiration from 2 early 1980s albums, Strawberries, 1982, and Phantasmagoria, 1985, when the Damned were trying to broaden their punk sound. Darkadelic was recorded in Acton, West London, with the location prompting a story from Captain Sensible about him and Sid Vicious, who died in February 1979. I spent the night in the cells. Sid, being a better runner, managed to scarp her, Sensible recalls. The Damned are, he says, still in touch with Sex Pistols guitarist Steve Jones. We do his radio show when we go to Los Angeles. Good luck to them. I mean, good luck to anyone from 77 who lived through those crazy years and is still alive. Because, we lived the rock and roll lifestyle, and it's only now, in my advanced age, that I realised how lucky I am to have survived that, because every stupid thing that was possible, we did. It was bloody good fun. I wish I could go back and relive it all, actually, and do all the stupid stuff again. I used to work for British Rail, and it's a lot more fun than that. The band, who in 2012 were rewarded for their outstanding contribution to music at the Classic Rock Roll of Honour Awards, have remained at the forefront of the punk genre, something Sensible attributes to their loyal fans and hard work. Without them, we wouldn't be here now, and for some reason or other, they seem to still like us, he says. I mean, in some respects, it's a reaction against the plastic kind of overproduced nonsense they call pop music these days, but I would say that, wouldn't I? The second reason why we're still jumping around in stages like lunatics is, unlike our contemporaries, the Sex Pistols, we didn't utter a 4-letter word on daytime TV. So it wasn't us who were kind of projected into mega stardom and become billionaires. We have to work for a living like everyone else in Britain. So that's the second reason. And the third reason is, it's bloody good fun standing up there in front of a loud amplifier. I think everyone should try it. The Sex Pistols' appearance in Bill Grundy's Thames Today programme in 1976 is still talked about after a 4-letter outburst on tea time television. But for Sensible, it has been a marvellous experience, he says, reflecting on it all, the music, touring and more. If I kick the bucket tomorrow, I've really enjoyed every minute of this wacky old life, but I might have chosen a better name than Captain Sensible. I should be an admiral at least. The Damned's new album, Darkadelic, is out now on Ear Music, by Herald magazine. Herald Scotland recorded on Thursday 18th of May 2023. Arts and Entertainments. Ruby Wax, Matt Osman, Deborah Levy and Linda Grant. Paperbacks of the Week, by Herald magazine. Fiction, The Ghost Theatre. Matt Osman, Bloomsbury, £16.99, ebook £11.89. Hauntingly beautiful, Matt Osman's The Ghost Theatre is a unique blend of history and fantasy set against the backdrop of Elizabethan London. The story follows Shay, a messenger girl and hawk trainer who sees the future in the patterns of birds, and Nonsuch, the dark star of the city's child theatre scene. Drawn together by their shared love of art, they create the Ghost Theatre, an underground troupe that performs fantastical plays in the city's hidden corners. As their performances incite rebellion among the city's outcasts, the pair's relationship sparks and burns against a backdrop of the plague and London in flames. Osmond's evocative prose brings Elizabethan London to life with vivid detail, seamlessly merging fact and fiction with fantastical brushstrokes, creating a world that is both familiar and completely new. Thrilling and thought-provoking, Osmond's unique creation will leave readers pondering its mysteries long after the final page. 9 out of 10. The Story of the Forest, Linda Grant, Virago, £18.99, ebook £11.49. With her books previously shortlisted for both the Booker and Women's Prizes, Linda Grant is most comfortable writing period novels, and The Story of the Forest, set in 1913, is no different. The story begins in Latvia, with Mina's revelatory walk in the forest to collect mushrooms, and follows her escape from an overbearing father with the help of her older brother to the city of Liverpool, in a bid to reach New York, but then on to London. The novel has a lightness of touch, and the tale is told with humour and sensitivity. Mina is central to the family saga, and Grant's own Eastern European roots in a culture with few written records and a strong tradition of storytelling informs the narrative. 9 out of 10. August Blue, Deborah Levy, Hamish Hamilton, £18.99, ebook £9.99. Elsa M. Anderson, a famous pianist who walked out of a concert in Vienna, witnesses a mysterious woman buying mechanical horses in a flea market. From this moment, Deborah Levy takes us on a journey of discovery and introspection, as Elsa attempts to discover the truth behind her identity. Set against a post-pandemic backdrop, where the world is struggling to emerge from years of suppression and control, Elsa is forced to brutally prise open the shell of her restricted and disciplined upbringing in order to set herself free. Through the fractured mirror of Elsa's sense of self, she chases the woman through cities across the world as she struggles to understand herself as an artist and a person. Levy's lyrical, pitch-perfect prose, where every word is weighted with significance, is an exploration of our reasons for living, the forces that drive us, and the inner music that controls our dance through life. 8 out of 10. Non-fiction, I'm Not As Well As I Thought I Was, Ruby Wax, Penguin Life, £18.99, ebook £9.99. There is no one as witty, inspiring and frank as Ruby Wax when it comes to mental health. This book provides a brutally honest and thoughtful insight into Wax's journey, including conversations with therapists and the highs and lows of fame. Despite being written by someone in the spotlight, the book is surprisingly relatable to anyone who has had mental health difficulties. Wax combines anecdotes about her time in a mental institution with her incredible celebrity adventures without it feeling disjointed. It feels as though Wax is now ready to start a new, more mindful chapter of her life, and the sense of closure in this book is cathartic, encouraging readers to do the same. An open account of the benefits of therapy, particularly cognitive behavioural therapy, can only benefit readers and is a firm reminder that everyone can struggle mentally and you're not alone. 10 out of 10. Children's book, Amy Gets Eaten, Adam Kay, illustrated by Henry Packer, Puffin, price £7.99, ebook £5.99. This book will have you chuckling throughout, and amidst the laughter, it's still very much an educational read. It gives a very entertaining and amusing view of the journey of a piece of sweet corn called Amy through a young boy called Noah's digestion system. Amy is a very happy piece of sweet corn, who helps the other pieces of food throughout their journey, encouraging them to make the most of the adventure. She then takes her own advice. The illustrations are very colourful and keep you focused. The book also helps bring out the brighter side to a topic some might not feel comfortable discussing. It's a delightful book. 9 out of 10. By Herald Scotland.
From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 22nd of May 2023, from the news section, Ben Lawers Dam, body of man recovered from reservoir in Perthshire. Report by Craig Williams. A man's body has been recovered from a reservoir in Perthshire. Police received a report of 2 men in difficulty in the water at Ben Lawers Dam, Loch na Lurridge, near Killen, on Friday evening. Emergency services attended and 1 man was treated by ambulance crews at the scene. Police said the body of a 38-year-old man was recovered around 12:30 p.m. on Sunday. The family of the deceased is aware, police added. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, Around 6:25pm on Friday the 19th of May 2023, we received a report of 2 men in difficulty in the water at Benlors Dam, Loch na Lairge, near Killen. Emergency services attended and 1 man was treated by the Scottish Ambulance Service at the scene. The body of a 38-year-old man was recovered around 12:30pm on Sunday, the 21st of May 2023. His family is aware. And that report was by Craig Williams. From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 22nd of May 2023, from the news section, Glasgow. Apology after yet another bridge strike on railway. Report by Craig Williams. Network Rail has issued an apology to rail users after yet another bridge strike on Scotland's railway. Rail services were temporarily halted between Glasgow Central and Neilston after a lorry struck a bridge between Muir End and Kings Park around 3pm on Tuesday. The line reopened around an hour later after an inspection of the bridge by a structural engineer. Network Rail took to Twitter to apologise to rail passengers, tweeting, "We are very sorry to passengers who have been disrupted by yet another bridge strike on Scotland's railway." It came after a bus had its roof torn off after striking a railway bridge on Crown Street in the Shedson area of Glasgow on Sunday morning. 10 people, including a child, were taken to hospital for treatment, with others treated for minor injuries at the scene. Police Scotland said that the inquiries into the bus crash remain ongoing. A First Bus spokesperson said, "We are continuing to work closely with the emergency services and our thoughts remain with those involved." And that report was by Craig Williams. From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 22nd of May 2023, from the news section, Glasgow. Probe after 10 hospitalised in double-decker bus bridge crash. Report by Craig Williams. An investigation is underway after a double-decker bus hit a railway bridge and had its roof sheared off, leaving 10 people needing hospital treatment. The incident took place in Cook Street in Glasgow's Chedson area at about 11:35am on Sunday, and casualties were taken to various hospitals in and around the city, including one to the Children's Hospital. Train services between Glasgow Central and Paisley Gilmore Street were affected, with the route closed until 5pm on Sunday. Some passengers were also treated at the scene in the city's south side, the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service said on Sunday. Police Scotland said, "Inquiries into the crash remain ongoing." A First Bus spokesperson said, "We are continuing to work closely with the emergency services and our thoughts remain with those involved." A Scottish Ambulance Service spokesman said, "We dispatched 12 resources as well as the Special Operations Resource Team and the Trauma Team to the scene. 5 patients were transported to Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, 4 patients were transported to Glasgow Royal Infirmary, and 1 patient was transported to the Royal Hospital for Children, Glasgow." And that report was by Craig Williams. From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 22nd of May 2023, from the news section, Interview, Scotland. Highland Coast Hotel's Chief Guy Crawford at helm. Report by Brian Donnelly, business correspondent. The new chief executive of one of Scotland's fastest growing hotel groups has pledged to strengthen and enhance its venues offering. In an exclusive Q&A with the Herald, he has outlined the benefits of having properties all around the North Coast 500 tourist route and the investments put into the Highland Coast Hotels estate. However, he has also pointed to challenges in the sector, including recruiting staff and a lack of affordable housing. Name, Guy Crawford. What is your business called? Highland Coast Hotels. Where is it based? Since 2021, Highland Coast Hotels has acquired several of the North Highlands landmark hotels, including the award-winning Kelsko Hotel, overlooking the beautiful Loch Glen Dubh in the far West Highlands, Newton Lodge, overlooking Loch Glencool a few minutes away from Kelsko, Plockton Inn on the western seaboard of the North Highlands, Historic Tongue Hotel on the North Coast, the Royal Golf Hotel in Dornoch, positioned on the first tee of one of the most revered links golf courses in the world, and the Royal Marine Hotel in Brora, lying close to further golf courses, stunning beaches and world-renowned distilleries. What does it produce/do? Created in April 2021, Highland Coast Hotels is a Scottish-based group aiming to bring innovative, sustainable and community-led hospitality to the stunning coastlines of the North Highlands of Scotland. To whom does it sell? Highland Coast Hotels appear to be discerning travellers from across Scotland, the rest of the UK and around the globe. What is its turnover? It's very much a year of transition and significant investments in our Plockton and Tongue properties, with major refurbishment, but also ongoing investments in all our hotels. We're now building a solid base as we expect growth to come from the return of international visitors and ongoing support from our local communities and domestic markets in the UK. Our turnover in 2022 was over £5.4 million. How many employees? We currently employ over 160 colleagues, making us one of the largest employers in the Northern Highlands. Sadly, we still have very significant challenges in recruiting colleagues, and the lack of affordable housing is a very real issue. It is also very disappointing to understand how difficult it is to put in place apprenticeship training programs with a longer term goal of giving people a career opportunity, not just a job. Why did you take the plunge? The Scottish Highlands is not only one of the most beautiful corners of the earth, but the region holds so many personal family connections and memories for me. My grandparents and parents were hotel owners and managers in the Scottish Highlands, including venues in Forres, Nairn, Grantown-on-Spey, Aviemore and Craigellachie. My wife Elizabeth is originally from Barra in the Western Isles. I'm passionate about enhancing local community life and sustainable tourism. As Scotland's newest luxury boutique hotel collection, Highlands Coast Hotels is already establishing its reputation for showcasing world-class Highland food and drink, supporting local businesses and outstanding hospitality. I look forward to the challenge of leading Highland Coast Hotels in the next phase of its development. What were you doing before? I was CEO and board member of Jumeirah Hospitality Group in Dubai, Managing Director of Fort Heritage Hotels, and Managing Director of Le Méridien Africa, Caribbean and Indian Ocean. I've enjoyed a long and distinguished career developing and running some of the world's most exclusive luxury hotels, as well as being non-executive board member of the Indian Hotels Company, Taj Group, Lausanne Hotel School in Switzerland, and Emirates Hotel Academy in the United Arab Emirates. As a fellow of the Institute of Hospitality and one of the first members of the Global Scots International Business Network, I have a wealth of experience and a passion for the Scottish Highlands that fits well with the aspirations of Highland Coast Hotels. What do you least enjoy? I still believe it's one of the best careers in the world. What are your ambitions for the firm? I joined Highland Coast Hotels as CEO just last month to consolidate our current performance and to lead the business into the next phase of its development and expansion. It's an exciting time. 2022 saw the relaunch of Royal Marine Brora winning national acclaim and landing straight into the Times top 100 hotels to visit. 2023 has already seen the introduction of 2 newly refurbished properties to the collection. The Tongue Hotel and Plockton Inn reopened to visitors just last month following extensive renovations. For the first time with Highland Coast Hotels, it will be possible to explore the whole NC 500 whilst enjoying consistent higher quality Highland hospitality. We now intend to strengthen and enhance the hotels we own and, in doing so, help to further boost regional growth. Our focus is on creating great experiences around the North Coast 500 for discerning travellers visiting from around the globe, sustainable tourism, embracing the local community, and drawing upon the expertise and skills of local suppliers in the Highlands. In particular, we're looking at extending the season and bringing businesses to local visitor economies over a quieter autumn and winter months, showcasing areas that are less impacted by over-tourism, and encouraging our guests to spend more time exploring the region. What single thing would most help? Affordable housing for local rural communities to help us recruit local staff and allow them to live and work in the place they call home. What is the most valuable lesson you have learned? Respect people, guests and colleagues. Follow and be an example of the values and principles of the company you work with, respecting differences of culture and expectations. What was your best moment? Every time I help someone fulfill their dreams, however small they may at first appear. What was your worst moment? The opposite of the above. when I've let someone down? How do you relax? Now that I've returned to live and work in the beautiful Scottish Highlands, I like to spend a lot more time with my lovely wife, Elizabeth, and family. I also enjoy the great outdoors and walking my dogs, Misty, a Blue Roan Cocker Spaniel, and Jojo, a rescue dog from Ireland. And that piece was by business correspondent Brian Donnelly.
From the Herald, Sunday, 21st May 2023, Sports section. Time for world-class research into female athletes' injuries by Susan Eaglestaff, sports writer. Imagine if not one, not two, but three players from Celtic or Rangers or Manchester City or Chelsea were struck down with the same season-ending injury within weeks of each other. There would not only be concern, but would be something akin to a public inquiry, and certainly there would be significant sums of money ploughed into finding the cause. It has never happened in men's football. It would never be allowed to get to that point. Yet it is only when significant numbers of female athletes find themselves in this horror scenario that there is any realisation that perhaps something should be done to try and find out what is the root cause of these identical severe injuries. Last month, England's women's football captain Leah Williamson ruptured her anterior cruciate ligament, which is one of the worst injuries an athlete can suffer. Williamson was the third Arsenal women's player in less than 6 months to suffer this injury, joining compatriot Beth Mead, who was the Euro 2022 player of the tournament, and Dutch woman Vivian Miedema, the Women's Super League's all-time top scorer. They are on an astonishingly lengthy list of female athletes and footballers in particular across the globe to have suffered this fate, ending up in the physio table and in the rehab gym for months, and in the worst cases, more than a year. At last it has started to dawn on people that maybe there's more to this than just bad luck. Estimates suggest that female footballers are 2 to 8, yes, 8 times more likely than their male counterparts to suffer this type of injury. This is an astonishing statistic. Yet, as things stand, a minuscule percentage of sports science studies are carried out exclusively in women. In what is a growing field, still only 6% of studies are women-only research, and of that 6%, less than 10% are of a high enough quality for the findings to be trusted. It is both shocking and appalling that there is such a dearth of reliable information for elite female athletes to draw upon. A book released this month entitled The Female Body Bible, A Revolution in Women's Health and Fitness by Dr. Emma Ross, Baz Moffat and Dr. Bella Smith highlights numerous areas in which the deficiency of research into female athletes is not only concerning, it is dangerous. Evidence is emerging as flagged up in this book. Not only do girls suffer concussion more frequently than boys, but they also have worse symptoms. For coaches and teachers of young athletes to be assuming that concussion occurs to the same extent and presents itself in identical ways in both young male and female athletes is a danger to these female athletes' health. Another strong theme in the book is how significant a female athlete's menstrual cycle is on both her likelihood of injury and how she will react to training. For example, if strength and resistance training is front-loaded in the first half of a female's cycle, they will get greater gains than would be the case if their same training was spread across the 4 weeks. The lack of research is across the board, and when it comes to female injuries, but with ACL injuries in particular, it remains worryingly unclear why some women are so much more prone. There's a strong suggestion that both the female anatomy and hormones play a part, but without concrete evidence, little can be done to reduce the risk. Females react differently to male athletes in so many ways that they assume, as is currently the case, that identical training methods are appropriate with identical results expected is preposterous. When the makeup of the female body is so different to that of the male, how have we got to this point of treating them the same? Particularly when elite sport is about finding those 1 or 2% that can make the difference at the highest level. When the margins are so fine in elite sport, it's madness that maximising the effects of training on female athletes and reducing the risk of injury are areas that are almost entirely ignored. Closer to home, Kaniska Advocacy, an initiative founded in part by Scotland Athletes International Mary McLennan, and which works to implement policies that help develop and protect women's sport and female athletes, has in the past few weeks released the Female Athlete Health Report. It highlights yet more of these issues regarding the lack of female-specific research in sport. This report gathers responses from more than 750 female athletes from a range of sports and highlighted there are several areas which indicate that female athletes are not being well served. McLennan's co-founder Kate Seary stated, "Across the board, athletes and coaches are misinformed on the basics of female athlete health, in turning limiting the performance potential and, most importantly, the health of female athletes across the UK. If male athletes were being shortchanged in terms of research into their bodies, you can be sure it would have been rectified far quicker. It is time now to make sure female athletes get what they deserve, and that is world-class research to match the world-class sport that they are playing." That article was by Susan Eaglestaff. From the Herald, Sunday, 21st of May, 2023. Sports section. Ali Price vows Glasgow will channel hurt to return stronger. By David Barnes. Glasgow Warriors scrum half Ali Price has promised the Glasgow Warriors will feed off the disappointment and frustration of Friday night's Challenge Cup final demolition at the hands of Toulon in Dublin to come back stronger next season. It was always going to be a tough mission against a star-studded French outfit who felt they had a point to prove, having fallen at the last hurdle in the competition on 4 previous occasions, including last year. But the Meek manager of Glasgow's capitulation was startling. Franco Smith's side did not fire a shot until captain Kyle Stenn scored the first of his team's 3 tries midway through the second half. But by that point, they were already 24 down, and Toulon comfortably kept them at arm's length for the remainder of the match to ultimately run out 43-19 victors. It's the first final I've been involved in, and it was absolutely gutting to be out there clapping politely while the Toulon boys celebrated, said Price, who started the game on the bench but made an instant impact after replacing Sébastien Cancelaire in the 53rd minute, laying on the pass which sent Stenn over for that opening score. I was there back in 2015 as a travelling reserve when Glasgow won the league, and it was a special day for the club. We had the chance on Friday to create our own bit of history, but it wasn't to be. It's not how we wanted to end at all in terms of our performance, but if you look at the bigger picture of where we started and how the year has gone, I think we can be immensely proud of the team we're becoming and some of the performances we've put in to get to this point. Warriors won 16 and drew 1 out of their 18 games played between the start of December and the end of April, which represents a remarkable transformation from the end of the 21-22 season, when a miserable run of results reached its nadir with a 76-15 hammering by Leinster, which cost former head coach Danny Wilson his job. However, the cold reality is that when push comes to shove, they could not replicate their regular season form in knockout matches against top competition, having also lost at home to Munster in the playoff quarterfinals of the URC at the start of this month. They did beat Scarlets away in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup, but that is the side who finished 14th in the URC this season. In a standalone one-off game, we didn't perform at our best, and so from that point of view it's disappointing, conceded Price. But to get here and how we've performed throughout the course of this year is incredibly encouraging. Someone pulled a stat out after the game that 96% of the squad will still be here next year, so it's the same group. We've all got the hurt from this, and we know we can achieve if we can get it right. That's the exciting thing. You don't have to make finals every year, and this one has passed us by. The challenge is to get another one next season. Everyone says that getting to a final is one thing, winning it is a different level. And we didn't have it in us to get the job done on Friday. It's a shame, but we'll be better for it. Before that, Price has Scotland's World Cup preparation to focus on, when he will compete against Ben White, the national team's current first choice for number 9, George Horne, first choice at Warriors, and Jamie Dobie, another Warriors teammate for one of 3 places in the final squad that will travel to France in the autumn. I have a little break of 2 weeks before we get into it, he said. Franco said he's incredibly proud of the whole group. He knows a large amount of us are going into World Cup camps for various nations, and he said to represent ourselves in the best way possible, show how we work day in and day out at Glasgow, and put that same work ethic into our national squads. He told us to play to our potential, try to shine on the brightest stage, and then come back fit and ready to take on next season. That article was by David Barnes.
From the Herald, Tuesday the 23rd of May 2023, from the news section. Truly dreadful. Numbers waiting too long in A&E worst since January. By Tom Gordon. The number of people waiting too long to be treated in A&E in Scotland has risen to its highest level in more than 4 months, alongside rises in those enduring extreme waits. Public Health Scotland reported 9,538 people waited more than the official 4-hour target last week, the highest number since the first week in January. The proportion seen on time fell from 65.8% to 64.1% in the week to May the 14th. The number waiting over 8 hours jumped from 2,534 to 3,143, and from 806 to 1,161 for waits over 12 hours, in both cases the worst figures since the week to April the 2nd. Opposition parties said the decline in performance to a state last seen in winter was a truly dreadful state of affairs. The target is for 95% of patients to be admitted, transferred or discharged within 4 hours. It has not been met nationally since July 2020. The worst performing health board last week was NHS Forth Valley, where 47.2% of patients were seen on time, followed by NHS Lanarkshire 56.3% and NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde 58.7%. The Royal College of Emergency Medicine has calculated there will be an excess death for every 1 in 72 patients who spend between 8 and 12 hours in an A&E. The Scottish Tories laid the blame on Humza Yousaf's 2-year stint as Health Secretary before he became First Minister. Tory MSP Dr Sandesh Gulhane said Humza Yousaf's disastrous tenure in charge of Scotland's NHS is continuing to have a devastating effect on our A&E departments. Despite us heading towards summer, performance in A&E is heading backwards on the SNP's watch, despite the best efforts of my dedicated colleagues on the front line. That is a truly dreadful state of affairs. Michael Matheson has been left an almighty mess to clear up by the new First Minister. It should never be acceptable that more than 1/3 of patients are waiting so long to be treated. With well over 1,100 patients waiting half a day to be seen too, suffering patients and frontline staff are bearing the brunt of the failure of Humza Yousaf's flimsy recovery plan and total inaction as Health Secretary. There is no time to wait for Michael Matheson to get on top of this A&E crisis. He needs to deliver a real recovery plan for our NHS, and he should ensure that it makes our health service modern, efficient and local across the country if we are ever to hit A&E waiting time targets again. Scottish Liberal Democrat leader Alex Cole-Hamilton said, "The crisis in Scotland's A&E departments continues to get worse, yet we are seeing next to no action from this SNP government." Sadly, it seems continuity government means continuity crisis. We need to see urgent action from Michael Matheson to resolve the crisis in our A&E departments that was left to him by Humza Yousaf. That should start by dropping his government's opposition to our constructive proposals such as an urgent inquiry into the hundreds of avoidable deaths linked to the emergency care crisis, a staff burnout prevention strategy and a health and social care staff assembly. This article was by Tom Gordon. From the Herald, Tuesday the 23rd of May 2023, from the news section. Dominic Raab, Tory MP to step down at next election, by Jodie Harrison. Dominic Raab, who resigned from Cabinet last month after a bullying inquiry, will stand down as an MP at the next general election. The former Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary confirmed his exit plans to the PA news agency on a Monday night. He quit Rishi Sunak's cabinet last month over bullying allegations from civil servants. An independent investigation by Adam Tolley KC found he had acted in an intimidating and aggressive way with officials, in behaviour that could have amounted to bullying. Mr Raab will not contest his Esher and Walton seat, which he has held since 2010, at the next election due by January 2025. The Surrey constituency, which Mr Raab won by just 2,743 votes at the 2019 election, is a key target for the Liberal Democrats at the next national poll. He joins a slew of senior Tories, including former Chancellor Sajid Javid and ex-Environment Minister George Eustice, announcing their exit plans amid a polling slump. Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock, who was a Conservative until he lost the whip over his I'm a Celebrity appearance, and Dehenna Davison, seen as a rising star in the Tory party, are also among around 30 Tory MPs to be quitting the Commons. In a letter to the chairman of his local Conservative association, seen by the Telegraph, Mr Raab reportedly cited concerns about the pressure on his family as being behind his decisions. I have become increasingly concerned over the last few years about the pressure the job has placed on my young family, he wrote in the letter dated May the 19th, according to the newspaper. I will continue to carry out all my responsibilities to my constituents and provide every support in campaigning so that we win here next year, which I am confident we can do under this Prime Minister's leadership. Mr Raab was sent to the backbenches after Mr Tolley's report concluded he had engaged in an abuse or misuse of power that undermines or humiliates while he was Foreign Secretary. He was also found to have been intimidating to staff by criticising utterly useless and woeful work while Justice Secretary. The senior lawyer led a 5-month investigation into 8 formal complaints about Mr Raab's conduct as Brexit Secretary and Foreign Secretary, and in his previous tenure leading the Ministry of Justice. Though he stopped short of describing the conduct as bullying, Mr Tolley's findings were consistent with what he said would amount to an offence under the Ministerial Code. Mr Raab stayed true to his pledge to step down from Cabinet if any bullying claim was upheld. But the karate black belt went down fighting, criticising the Kafkaesque saga and alleging the inquiry had set a dangerous precedent by setting a low threshold for bullying. The 49-year-old said he had been warned that unionised officials were targeting him in a widely criticised tirade that raised concerns about a breakdown of trust between ministers and civil servants. His departure spells the end of a colourful political career which left him no stranger to controversy, as well as his ambitions of one day taking over in Number 10. Mr Raab, who made an unsuccessful run to replace Theresa May as Tory leader in 2019, was demoted from Foreign Secretary after accusations of being missing in action by being on holiday in Crete during the 2021 Afghanistan evacuation. That article was by Jodie Harrison. From the Herald, Tuesday the 23rd of May 2023, from the opinion section. Holly and Phil show relies on revelations in the next instalment, by Katrina Stewart. Never was so much said about so little. As has been amply well rehearsed by now, the enamel began to crack around Phil and Holly's smiles some weeks ago, dismaying TV execs and delighting the small but energetic band of body language experts who are wheeled out by the tabloids on such occasions to minutely examine every twitch and twist of a celebrity's movements. Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby have been a TV husband and wife team on ITV's This Morning for the past 14 years, seemingly enjoying a genuine and supportive friendship both on screen and off. A froideur seems to have developed sometime around Coffingate, when Phil and Holly were slated for jumping the queue to see the late Queen lying in state in Westminster Abbey. Whispers and speculation have been rife. Had the pair fallen out? Is Schofield a bully? Was the friendship fake all along? There's murkiness around Schofield's brother's recent conviction for child sexual offences. Who is the wronged party and who's the wrong 'un? The madness reached fever pitch with a mention of the couple in the House of Commons. We all know what's going on with her and her leader. Oliver Dowden, the Deputy Prime Minister, smirked at Angela Rayner, It's all lovey-dovey on the surface. They turn it on for the cameras, but as soon as they're off, it's a different story. They're at each other's throats. They are the Phil and Holly of British politics. Finally, Schofield blinked first and issued a statement on Sunday saying he's leaving the show. A bloodless statement from Willoughby was issued in response. In the first this morning since Phil was sacked, resigned, he was given a minute-long farewell mention that came out a little like he'd died. Remember the innocent days of Phil and Holly being criticised for the spin-to-win competition to pay a family's fuel bill? Innocent times. Now something is pungent, but no one knows what it is. Or rather, those who know a lot can legally say very little. And thus we have pages upon pages of tabloid coverage of the rift without any news information or substance. It's also all the broadcast news programmes want to talk about, despite having guests on who profess not knowing the first thing about Phil, Holly or daytime TV. That's been quite enjoyable actually, listening to political reporters desperately scrambling to fill some airtime about the pros and cons of who sits on this morning couch. What's been less enjoyable has been the terrible snobbery of it all. Before expressing any kind of opinion, the bulk of the talking heads have made sure to leave with the fact that they barely know who Phil and Holly are, and they certainly don't watch This Morning. I'm sorry, but if you're of my generation and you're trying to tell me that the broom cupboard and Gordon the Gopher are a mystery to you, then you are a liar. The national fever generated by this madness suggests there's something tragic about the whole scenario. A much-loved national treasure letting the country down. Has no one watched the morning show? If TV dramas are anything to go by, daytime telly is a cruel and unusual place, rife with backstabbing and rivetingly complex relationships. This is all just part of the usual cycle. And maybe it's time to re-examine that cycle. Why is daytime television so reliant on the tired trope of the TV couple, always an older, experienced man and a younger, more attractive woman? TV marriages share in common with real marriages the fact that one signs a contract compelling one to be in proximity to another person. The British divorce rate is high. The British TV marriage divorce rate is higher still. Couples fall in and out of love, as do audiences. Perhaps more will be revealed about the behind-the-scenes machinations of This Morning. Perhaps the public will be left panting for more. Does it matter? That depends on what's revealed in the next episode. A country waits for the next instalment. This article was by Katrina Stewart. From the Herald, Tuesday the 23rd of May, 2023, from the news section. Margaret Ferrier, SNP MP calls for former colleague to stand down. By Jodie Harrison. An SNP MP has called for Margaret Ferrier to stand down from the House of Commons and spark a by-election in her South Lanarkshire seat. David Linden, Westminster spokesman for social justice, said that a vote would be an opportunity to test new leader Humza Yousaf's vision with the electorate. Ms Ferrier is facing suspension from the House of Commons over breaching COVID regulations and could be sacked from her seat if enough people in the constituency back her recall. Mr Linden was asked on BBC Scotland's Good Morning Scotland if she should now step down. He said, "I absolutely do. I think I was the first person on the airwaves the night Margaret Ferrier's story broke, and said then that I thought her position was untenable, and my position on that has not changed." Rightly, voters in Rutherglen and Hamilton West are annoyed they have got an MP who was supposed to be voting on COVID legislation that she has found to have broken. And I know that people in Rutherglen and Hamilton West are focused on the cost of living crisis, on the NHS and the economy. And they will want a Member of Parliament who has credibility and who can stand up in the House of Commons. And that's what they'll get from the SNP when the by-election takes place. We will go to the constituents of Rutherglen and Hamilton West and make the case for a strong SNP MP who will be laser-focused on the cost of living crisis and tackling the concerns of working people. Mr. Linden said that the SNP were prepared to fiercely contest the seat and welcomed the challenge from other parties. He said, "The by-election hasn't taken place yet. We will fight for absolutely every single vote. There's no doubt that any electoral contest will be fiercely contested by all political parties, including the SNP. But it's an opportunity for us. We've got a new leader in Hamza Youssef, and we've got an opportunity to go out there and talk about his vision." The Scottish Government has its mission set in terms of equality and opportunity. These are the kind of messages we'll be taking to people on the doorstep. This article was by Jodie Harris.
This article is from the Herald on the 23rd of May 2023 from the sports section. The headline is Rangers confirm Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent exits among other players. The article is by Ewan Payton. Rangers have confirmed their retained list for 2023. Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent are the headline names who will leave Ibrox this summer. It's been expected for some time that both players would depart Rangers at the end of their contracts, but it has now been confirmed in a statement by the club. They will be joined by several other major first-team players such as Alan McGregor, who appears to be retiring, Scott Arfield and Philip Helander. Stephen Davis, who has been out of action since December last year through injury, remains in talks over his future. A club statement reads, "Each of the departing players has given the club excellent service and will move on to the next stage in their careers with the warmest wishes and thanks of everyone at Ibrox and the Rangers Training Centre. Tributes to the departing players will be paid at tomorrow's match with Hearts. Additional acknowledgements to those leaving will continue on the club's digital platforms in the coming weeks, with Alan McGregor to be further recognised in his testimonial match with Newcastle on July the 18th. Michael Beale is due to speak to the media in the coming hours and will address the departures then." That report was by Ewan Payton.
That concludes this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels, rate and review, and tell your friends about our service.